Dr. Maya Thompson, a wealthy and powerful black CEO and surgeon in the small town of Cedar Creek, leads a humble and dedicated life, serving her community. However, her integrity is challenged when District Attorney Simon Carter accuses her of patient privacy violations, igniting suspicion and revealing deep-seated racial biases among influential board members and local authorities. Despite her professionalism and unwavering commitment, Maya faces subtle microaggressions and overt discrimination, including unjust suspensions and orchestrated attacks by figures like Officer Daniels. As tensions escalate, Maya must navigate a corrupt system determined to undermine her success and reputation. Dr. Maya Thompson adjusted the straps of her worn denim jacket as she pushed open the glass door of Rosie's diner. The morning sun spilled onto the asphalt, casting long shadows across the small town of Cedar Creek. Maya's daily ritual was to stop by Rosie's before heading to the community clinic, a place where her presence was less a symbol of her success and more an embodiment of her commitment to the town she loved. Rosie's was a cozy, unassuming spot with red vinyl booths and a checkered floor that had seen better days. The scent of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the aroma of sizzling bacon and homemade biscuits, creating an inviting atmosphere. Maya chose a seat at the counter, sliding onto a worn stool where the vinyl creaked softly beneath her weight. "Morning, Rosie," Maya greeted, nodding toward the proprietor who was bustling behind the counter. Rosie glanced up, her face breaking into a warm smile. "Maya? The usual?" "Yes, please," Maya replied, her voice steady and genuine. She placed her keys on the side of the counter and pulled out her wallet, but instead of reaching for the money, she began rummaging through her bag. As Rosie prepared her coffee, Maya took a moment to observe the morning rush. The diner was filled with a mix of regulars and new faces, each person immersed in their own world. There was old Mr. Jenkins reading the newspaper, young parents trying to wrangle their energetic children, and the local factory workers grabbing a quick bite before their shifts. Maya's presence was almost invisible amidst the clatter of dishes and hum of conversation. Despite her high-profile career as the CEO of Thompson Healthcare, she preferred these small, intimate settings where she could connect with the community without the weight of her title looming over every interaction. Rosie placed the steaming cup of coffee in front of Maya, who offered a grateful smile. "Thank you." "You're welcome." "How's everything going at the clinic?" Rosie asked, leaning on the counter as she cleaned a plate. "Busy as always. We're seeing a lot of flu cases this year," Maya replied, taking a sip of her coffee. The warmth of the liquid spread through her, offering a momentary comfort before the day's challenges resumed. Across the diner, a group of teenagers laughed loudly, their boisterous energy filling the room. Maya couldn't help but feel a pang of nostalgia, remembering her own youth spent in places like this, dreaming of a future that seemed so distant at the time. A man in his early 40s approached the counter, his expression weary. He wore a wrinkled dress shirt and had dark circles under his eyes. "Can I get a coffee to go, Rosie?" "Sure thing. Mike Black as always?" Rosie asked, knowing him well. "Yeah, thanks," Mike replied, glancing at Maya before moving toward the door. As Mike left, a teenage waitress named Jenna approached Maya's table, carrying a stack of menus. Her hair was tied back in a messy ponytail, and she wore a name tag that read, "Jenna, 2 months." "Need anything else, Maya?" Jenna asked, her eyes darting between Maya and the entrance. "No, I'm good for now." "Thanks," Maya answered, her smile reassuring. Jenna nodded and returned to her duties, but Maya noticed the subtle tension in her movements. The diner had been experiencing staffing shortages lately, and the pressure was evident. Just as Maya was settling into her meal, the door swung open, and a man walked in, scanning the room with a stern look. He was tall, dressed in a tailored suit, and carried an air of authority that seemed to fill the space. His eyes briefly met Maya's, but he offered no acknowledgement, instead proceeding to take a seat at the booth near the window. Maya watched him for a moment, before focusing back on her breakfast. She appreciated the anonymity the diner offered, a stark contrast to her usual environment of boardrooms and hospital corridors. Here, she could breathe, if only for a short while. As she took another bite of her eggs and toast, Rosie approached again, a concerned look replacing her usual cheerful demeanor. "Everything okay, Maya? You seem a bit distracted today. Maya sighed softly, stirring her coffee thoughtfully. Just thinking about the upcoming grant applications. We need to secure more funding for the mental health programs. Rosie nodded sympathetically. I know it's a lot. You're doing great though. The community really appreciates what you're doing here. Maya offered a grateful smile. Thanks, Rosie. It means a lot. Their conversation was interrupted by the man in the suit, standing up abruptly, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. The diners turned to watch him, curiosity piqued by his commanding presence. Maya felt a familiar tightness in her chest as she observed the man. Something about his demeanor suggested he was not here for a casual meal. She tried to push aside the unease, focusing instead on her plate. As Rosie cleared the last of Maya's breakfast, the man approached the counter, pulling out a crisp white paper from his briefcase. I'd like to speak with Dr. Thompson, he announced, his voice firm and unyielding. Maya stood up, adjusting her jacket. I'm Dr. Thompson. How can I help you, Mr. Carter? Simon Carter, the district attorney, met her gaze with narrowed eyes. He was known for his no-nonsense attitude and relentless pursuit of justice, traits that had both earned him respect and cultivated enemies over the years. I was hoping we could address this privately, Maya began, maintaining her composure despite the storm brewing in her mind. What specific concerns do you have? Simon placed the document on the table, pushing it toward her. These reports indicate potential violations of patient privacy and improper handling of sensitive cases. We've received multiple complaints. Maya leaned forward, her eyes meeting his with unwavering determination. I assure you, our clinic operates with the highest standards of ethics and confidentiality. I'd like to go through these allegations point by point. Simon's expression remained stern, but there was a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. That's precisely why I'm here, Dr. Thompson. We need transparency and accountability, especially when it involves public trust in healthcare institutions. Maya took a moment to review the documents, her mind working swiftly to recall the cases mentioned. I'll need to investigate these claims thoroughly. Can you provide me with the names of the patients and the dates of these incidents? Simon nodded, pulling out his phone to take notes. I'll send you the detailed reports by the end of the day. I expect a prompt and comprehensive response from your end. As Simon stood to leave, Rosie approached the table once more, concern etched on her face. Is everything all right, Maya? Maya gave a tight smile, attempting to mask the anxiety bubbling within her. Yes, Rosie. Just some work-related issues. I'll handle it. Simon paused at the door, looking back at Maya with a final measured gaze. Dr. Thompson, if you need any assistance or further clarification, don't hesitate to reach out. We're here to ensure justice is served. With that, he exited the diner, leaving Maya to process the confrontation. The room seemed to close in around her, the cozy ambiance now tainted with a sense of impending conflict. Taking a deep breath, Maya sat back down, her mind racing with thoughts and strategies. The allegations were serious, and any misstep could jeopardize not only her reputation, but the well-being of the community she had dedicated her life to serving. Yet, she remained resolute, her humility a driving force in her approach to resolving the situation. As she pondered her next steps, Jenna returned to refill her coffee, sensing the shift in Maya's demeanor. Here you go, Maya. Anything else I can get you? No, thank you, Jenna. I appreciate it, Maya replied, her voice calm but tinged with the weight of responsibility. Jenna gave her a sympathetic nod before leaving the table, allowing Maya a moment of solitude amidst the bustling diner. She reached for her phone, sending a quick message to her legal team, outlining the need for an immediate meeting to address the allegations. Outside, the morning sun continued to shine, indifferent to the turmoil within Rosie's diner. Maya gazed out the window for a moment, gathering her thoughts. Cedar Creek was a place where everyone knew each other, and trust was paramount. She couldn't afford to let this situation erode the community's faith in her leadership and the healthcare services they relied upon. As she awaited a response from her team, a subtle tension settled over Rosie's. The other patrons had returned to their routines, but the brief intrusion of conflict had left an undercurrent of unease. Maya glanced around, noticing the way some people watched her now with curiosity and concern. Her high status in the healthcare world was perhaps more apparent than she had intended, despite her attempts at modesty. a woman in her mid-30s approached Maya's table, a friendly smile on her face. "Dr. Thompson, I heard about the allegations on the news. I just wanted to say I believe in your integrity and the work you do here." Maya felt a surge of gratitude. "Thank you, Mrs. Reynolds. It means a lot to hear that from someone who benefits directly from our services." Mrs. Reynolds nodded, her eyes reflecting sincerity. "If there's anything I can do to help, please let me know." Before Maya could respond, the door swung open again, and a group of young men entered, their loud laughter cutting through the diner's hum. Maya recognized them as members of the local community, but their presence now felt intrusive, the earlier warmth replaced by an air of tension. One of the men, a tall figure with a confident stride, approached the counter, ordering with a dismissive tone, "I need a large coffee, make it quick." Rosie nodded, but the man's brusque manner sent a ripple through the room. Maya watched as he took his coffee and moved to sit near her table, glancing her way briefly before settling into the booth. There was an unspoken recognition of her status, even in this casual setting, and Maya could feel eyes on her, some with curiosity, others with judgment. The brewing conflict was not limited to the allegations. Societal prejudices and the challenges of being a black woman in a position of power added layers to the tension. As the morning wore on, Maya felt the weight of her dual identities pressing down on her. The respected CEO and surgeon, and the humble community member seeking solace in a simple diner. The societal expectations and systemic challenges she faced were ever present, now magnified by the confrontation with Simon Carter. Rosie returned to her table, refilling her coffee. "If you need anything, just let me know." "Thank you, Rosie," Maya replied, her mind already shifting to the steps she needed to take next. She reached into her bag, pulling out a small notebook where she jotted down ideas and plans. Maya began outlining her response to the allegations, her handwriting swift and precise. Her years of leadership had honed her ability to navigate complex situations, and she was determined to address the issues head-on, ensuring transparency and accountability. As she worked, the atmosphere in the diner slowly began to lighten, the initial shock of Simon's visit fading into a backdrop of everyday life. Maya's resolve strengthened, her humility giving way to the strength that had built her career. She was ready to face the challenges, to fight for the truth and protect the community she held dear. A soft knock on the door interrupted her thoughts, and she looked up to see Mr. Jenkins approaching her table. His cane tapped rhythmically against the floor, and his gray hair was neatly combed back. "Good morning, Maya," he greeted, his voice gentle. "Mind if I join you?" "Of course, Mr. Jenkins," Maya replied, gesturing to the empty seat beside her. He settled in, offering a warm smile. "I heard about what happened with Mr. Carter. It's troubling to see such claims against someone like you." Maya nodded, appreciating his support. "I'm taking it very seriously. We're going through all the reports and ensuring everything is in order." Mr. Jenkins sighed, leaning back in his chair. "Cedar Creek thrives because of leaders like you. Don't let this shake your confidence. The community stands with you." Her heart swelled with gratitude, the words offering comfort amid the uncertainty. "Thank you, Mr. Jenkins. Your support means a lot." They sat in companionable silence for a few moments, the morning light casting a warm glow over the diner. Maya felt a renewed sense of purpose, the blend of humility and strength guiding her forward. As she continued to prepare her response, she knew the path ahead would be challenging. But with the support of her community and her unwavering dedication, Maya Thompson was ready to confront the obstacles, determined to uphold the values she embodied, both as a leader and as a humble member of Cedar Creek. Dr. Maya Thompson took a deep breath, the weight of Simon Carter's accusations lingering in her mind. As she began to outline her response to the allegations, her thoughts were interrupted by the buzzing of her phone. She glanced at the screen, a text from her legal team confirming they had received her initial review of the reports and were scheduling an urgent meeting for later that afternoon. Deciding to step outside for some fresh air, Maya closed her notebook and made her way to the door. Rosie offered a sympathetic smile as Maya left her seat. "Take care, Maya. Let me know if you need anything," Rosie called after her. Maya nodded, pushing open the door to the bustling street of Cedar Creek. The sun was high, casting a warm glow over the town, but Maya felt a chill of apprehension. She walked down the sidewalk, her mind racing with thoughts of compliance, transparency, and the looming investigation. Cedar Creek was a place where everyone knew everyone, and news traveled fast. Any misstep could tarnish not only her reputation, but also the trust the community had placed in her. As she approached the clinic, the familiar sight of the building provided a semblance of comfort. The sign above the entrance read, "Thompson Healthcare," a name synonymous with quality care and unwavering dedication. Maya pushed open the door, the automatic mechanism greeting her with a soft chime. Inside, the clinic was quiet, the hum of medical equipment and the distant sound of a phone ringing creating a steady backdrop. She was greeted by her assistant Linda, who looked up from her desk with concern etched on her face. "Morning, Maya. You look troubled," Linda remarked, her voice gentle. Maya forced a smile. "Just the usual pressures, Linda. Let's get started on those reports Simon sent over." They sat down in the small conference room, the walls adorned with certificates and community accolades. Linda spread out the documents Simon had provided, her fingers nervously tapping the table. "As you can see, these are serious allegations," Linda said, pointing to the highlighted sections. "Multiple patients have reported breaches in their privacy, and some have even suggested that certain cases were mishandled." Maya leaned back, her fingers steepled as she contemplated her response. "I understand the gravity of these claims. We maintain strict protocols for patient confidentiality and case management. I want to ensure we address each point thoroughly and transparently." Linda nodded, her eyes meeting Maya's with unwavering trust. "I knew I could count on you, Maya. The community is looking to us right now." Just then, the door swung open, and Simon Carter stepped into the room, his presence commanding immediate attention. He was impeccably dressed in his dark suit, the epitome of authority, yet his eyes held a steely resolve that spoke of his unwavering commitment to justice. "Good morning, Dr. Thompson," Simon greeted, his tone formal but not unfriendly. "Good morning, Mr. Carter," Maya replied, standing to shake his hand. "Please, have a seat. Let's go through your concerns." As they delved into the specifics of the allegations, Maya remained composed, her professionalism unwavering. She meticulously addressed each point, providing evidence of the clinic's adherence to ethical standards and confidentiality protocols. However, Simon remained skeptical, his gaze unwavering as he took notes. After what felt like hours, Simon finally leaned back, his expression inscrutable. "I appreciate your thoroughness, Dr. Thompson. However, these complaints cannot be ignored. We will need to conduct a formal investigation to ensure that all practices meet the necessary standards." Maya felt a surge of frustration, but kept her emotions in check. "I understand, Mr. Carter. I assure you, we have nothing to hide. Transparency is key, and we will fully cooperate with any investigation to uphold the integrity of our services." Simon nodded, signaling the end of the meeting. "Very well, I will notify you once the investigation begins. Thank you for your time." As Simon left the room, Maya sank back into her chair, her mind reeling from the encounter. She glanced at Linda, whose reassuring smile did little to alleviate her anxiety. "Thank you, Linda. We'll get through this," Maya said softly, her voice betraying a hint of vulnerability. Linda reached out, placing a comforting hand on Maya's shoulder. "I have no doubt we will. You're not alone in this." Leaving the conference room, Maya made her way to her office, her steps heavy with the burden of impending scrutiny. The office was a testament to her success: sleek furniture, state-of-the-art technology, and walls lined with accolades. But today, it felt more like a fortress isolating her from the support she so desperately needed. As she sat down, her phone rang, jolting her from her thoughts. It was her chief of operations, Marcus. "Morning, Maya. I just wanted to update you that the legal team has drafted a preliminary response to Simon's allegations. They recommend holding a press conference to address the community's concerns head-on," Marcus suggested. Maya sighed, rubbing her temples. "A press conference might be necessary, but I'm worried about the optics. We need to handle this delicately to maintain the community's trust." Marcus nodded. "Agreed. We also need to prepare for potential backlash, especially from those who might question your leadership based on preconceived notions. Some individuals in Cedar Creek haven't been as supportive as others." Maya's heart sank at his words. Despite her humble lifestyle and genuine commitment to the community, she couldn't escape the latent prejudices that lingered beneath the surface. As a successful black woman in a position of power, she often found herself battling not just professional challenges, but also societal biases. "Thank you, Marcus. Please coordinate with the PR team and ensure our message is clear and consistent. We need to show that we are committed to transparency and accountability," Maya replied, her determination shining through her exhaustion. After ending the call, Maya leaned back in her chair, her thoughts clouded with concerns about the investigation and the potential for increased scrutiny. The challenges she faced were compounded by the subtle and overt biases that persisted in Cedar Creek. Despite her achievements and dedication, there were still those who viewed her success through a lens of skepticism and prejudice. An unwelcome encounter. Later that afternoon, Maya decided to take a brief walk to clear her mind. The clinic's serene garden, with its meticulously trimmed hedges and vibrant flowers, provided a peaceful escape from the mounting pressures inside. As she strolled along the paved path, she noticed a familiar figure approaching her. A local store manager, Mr. Douglas, known for his stern demeanor and traditional views. "Dr. Thompson," Mr. Douglas greeted, his tone neutral but his eyes wary. "May I have a moment?" Maya nodded, turning to face him. "Of course, Mr. Douglas. What can I do for you?" He hesitated, glancing around before speaking. "I wanted to discuss the recent changes in our community health initiatives. I've heard some concerns from the staff at Douglas's Hardware about the new mental health programs." Maya raised an eyebrow, sensing the underlying tension. "I'm aware of the feedback. We're always open to suggestions to better serve the community. What specific concerns are they raising?" Mr. Douglas shifted uncomfortably, his gaze dropping to the ground before meeting hers again. "Some of the staff feel that resources are being diverted away from essential services. They're worried that the focus on mental health might undermine the primary healthcare provisions we've been offering for years." Maya took a deep breath, striving to maintain her composure. "I understand their concerns, Mr. Douglas. However, mental health is a critical component of overall well-being. Our goal is to integrate these services seamlessly without compromising existing programs. In fact, improving mental health support can enhance the effectiveness of all healthcare services we provide." Mr. Douglas nodded slowly, though his expression remained unchanged. "I see your point, but change can be unsettling. People are resistant to anything that alters the status quo." Maya placed a hand on his shoulder, her voice calm yet assertive. "Change is never easy, but it's necessary for progress, I assure you. We're committed to maintaining the quality and availability of all our services. If there are specific issues the staff are facing, please have them communicate them directly to me. I'm here to listen and address any legitimate concerns." Mr. Douglas met her gaze, a flicker of respect in his eyes despite the initial reservation. "Thank you, Dr. Thompson. I'll relay your message to the team. We appreciate your dedication to improving our community's health." As Mr. Douglas walked away, Maya felt a familiar sense of frustration. It wasn't always overt discrimination that posed challenges. Often, it was the subtle resistance to change and the underlying biases that made her role more complicated. She knew that as a black woman in a position of authority, she had to navigate these complexities with grace and resilience. Subtle microaggressions. Back in her office, Maya began drafting a response to the allegations, her thoughts interrupted by the sound of her secretary Angela entering the room. "Good afternoon, Maya. You have a meeting with the board members at 3 p.m. regarding the expansion plans," Angela informed her, her voice cheerful despite the tense atmosphere. "Thank you, Angela. Please make sure they're prepared with all the necessary documents," Maya replied, not looking up from her notebook. As Angela left, Maya couldn't help but notice the subtle undertones in their interactions. Despite her high status, there were moments when her authority was subtly undermined. Whether it was the way Mr. Douglas approached her, or the occasional sideways glances from other community leaders, Maya was constantly reminded of the invisible barriers she had to navigate. Later that evening, Maya attended the meeting with the board members, a group of influential figures in Cedar Creek who held significant sway over local policies and initiatives. The room was adorned with elegant furnishings, a stark contrast to Rosie's Diner's modest charm. As the meeting commenced, Maya presented her plans for the mental health program expansion, detailing the benefits and the anticipated positive impact on the community. Throughout her presentation, Maya maintained her professionalism, answering questions with clarity and confidence. However, she couldn't ignore the underlying skepticism in some of the board members' eyes. One member, Councilwoman Linda Harris, leaned forward, her fingers steepled as she addressed Maya directly. "Dr. Thompson, while your intentions are commendable, how do you plan to ensure that these new programs don't strain our existing resources? Cedar Creek is already facing budget constraints, and we need to prioritize essential services." Maya met her gaze steadily. "I understand the concerns, Councilwoman Harris. Our proposal includes reallocating existing resources and seeking additional funding through grants and partnerships. The goal is to enhance our services without compromising what we currently offer. Additionally, addressing mental health proactively can reduce long-term costs by preventing more severe health issues down the line." Another board member, Mayor Thompson, no relation to Maya, raised an eyebrow. "And what about the staff change can be difficult, and we've heard from some employees who are resistant to these new initiatives. How do you plan to address their concerns?" Maya nodded thoughtfully. "We're implementing comprehensive training programs to help staff adapt to the new services. Open communication channels are being established to ensure that everyone feels heard and supported during this transition. Our aim is to foster a collaborative environment where all team members are aligned with our mission to improve community health." As the meeting progressed, Maya could feel the undercurrents of doubt and resistance. Despite her thorough preparation and clear vision, the biases, both overt and subtle, were becoming increasingly apparent. She remained calm, focusing on the data and the positive outcomes her programs could achieve. But internally, the frustration bubbled just beneath the surface. After the meeting, as the board members filed out, Councilwoman Harris approached Maya once more. "Dr. Thompson, I appreciate your dedication. Just be aware that not everyone is on board with these changes yet. It will take time and persistent effort to gain their full support." "Thank you, Councilwoman. I'm committed to working closely with all stakeholders to ensure a smooth implementation," Maya replied, her voice firm yet empathetic. As she left the boardroom, Maya felt the full weight of her dual identities pressing down on her. She was a respected leader and a trailblazer in her field, yet she couldn't escape the subtle prejudices that sometimes made her journey more arduous. Balancing her professional responsibilities with the need to address systemic biases was a delicate tightrope she navigated daily. An unseen barrier. The following day, Maya received an unexpected visit from Officer Daniels, a local police officer known for his strict adherence to rules and protocols. He stood at the entrance of her office, his posture rigid, holding a clipboard in his hand. "Dr. Thompson, do you have a moment?" Officer Daniels asked, his tone neutral, but his eyes holding a hint of something unspoken. "Of course, officer, please, come in," Maya responded, gesturing to a chair across from her desk. He sat down, placing the clipboard on the table. "I wanted to discuss the recent reports we received regarding the clinic's operations. Some of the complaints suggest that there have been irregularities in patient records and case management." Maya felt a familiar knot of frustration tighten in her stomach. "I believe these are the same allegations brought forward by Mr. Carter. We're already addressing them through our internal review and cooperating fully with any investigations." Officer Daniels nodded, his expression unreadable. "I see, however. Given the seriousness of these claims, we need to ensure that all protocols are being followed meticulously. I'd like to schedule a time to review the clinic's records in detail." Maya maintained her composure, though her mind raced. "You're welcome to do so. Officer transparency is paramount, and we have nothing to hide. Please coordinate with our administrative staff to arrange a convenient time." As Officer Daniels left, Maya exhaled slowly, her frustration tempered by her unwavering professionalism. She knew that in Cedar Creek, power dynamics could be influenced by underlying biases. Despite her success and wealth, she wasn't immune to the prejudices that occasionally surfaced in her interactions with authority figures. Later that afternoon, Maya attended a community town hall meeting, a forum where residents could voice their concerns and discuss local issues. The room was filled with concerned faces, the air thick with anticipation. Maya had scheduled this meeting to address the ongoing investigation and reassure the community of her commitment to ethical practices. As she stood before the audience, she felt the familiar surge of determination. "Thank you all for coming today. I understand that the recent allegations have caused concern, and I want to address them directly. Our clinic has always prioritized the well-being and confidentiality of our patients, and I am committed to ensuring that we uphold the highest standards of care." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd, but Maya could also sense undercurrents of doubt and skepticism. She continued, outlining the steps her team was taking to investigate and resolve the issues, emphasizing transparency and accountability. After her speech, a middle-aged woman stood up, her expression tense. "Dr. Thompson, how can we be sure that these investigations are unbiased? Given your position and influence in the community, isn't there a conflict of interest?" Maya took a deep breath, choosing her words carefully. "I understand the concern, Mrs. Edwards. That's why we've brought in an independent third-party auditor to oversee the investigation. Our goal is to ensure that every claim is thoroughly and impartially examined." Another attendee, a young man with a frustrated expression, spoke up. "But what about the day-to-day operations? If there are systemic issues, how can you ensure they won't continue to affect our community?" Maya met his gaze directly. "We are implementing stricter oversight and enhancing our training programs to prevent any future discrepancies. Our priority is to restore and maintain your trust." As the meeting progressed, Maya felt the tension in the room escalate. Despite her best efforts to communicate transparency and accountability, the subtle biases and prejudices of some community members lingered. She could feel the frustration building, both in the room and within herself, as she struggled to bridge the gap between her intentions and the community's perceptions. After the town hall, as Maya was leaving the building, she was approached by Officer Daniels once more. This time, his demeanor was slightly more receptive, though still formal. "Dr. Thompson, I wanted to thank you for addressing the community's concerns so thoroughly," he said, his tone less rigid than before. "It's clear you're taking this seriously." Maya offered a polite smile, appreciating the acknowledgement. "Thank you, Officer Daniels. We are committed to resolving these issues and ensuring the highest standards of care for our patients." He nodded, offering a faint smile in return. "If you need any further assistance or resources during the investigation, please don't hesitate to reach out." As he walked away, Maya felt a flicker of hope. Despite the challenges and the underlying biases she faced, there were moments of understanding and support that made her role worthwhile. She knew that maintaining her composure and professionalism was crucial, not just for her own integrity, but for the community she served. Internal struggles. Back in her office, Maya sat down, the weight of the day pressing down on her. She stared out the window, watching as the sun began to set over Cedar Creek, casting a golden hue across the town. The beauty of the evening contrasted sharply with the turmoil she felt inside. She reached for her notebook, jotting down key points for her upcoming press conference. Despite the mounting pressures, Maya remained resolute. Her humility and dedication to the community had always been her guiding principles, and she was determined to uphold them, even in the face of adversity. However, beneath her calm exterior, Maya grappled with a storm of emotions. The subtle microaggressions, the overt confrontations, and the underlying biases took a toll on her. She questioned whether her efforts were enough, whether her humility was sometimes mistaken for weakness, or if her success had inadvertently fueled resentment among certain members of the community. Her phone buzzed again, interrupting her thoughts. It was a message from her father, a retired surgeon who had been her inspiration and mentor throughout her career. "Proud of you, always stay strong, love, Dad." Maya smiled softly, a surge of warmth flooding her chest. His unwavering support had been a cornerstone of her resilience. She took a moment to breathe, allowing his words to anchor her amidst the chaos. As she prepared for the press conference, Maya reflected on her journey. She had worked tirelessly to build Thompson Healthcare into a pillar of the community, ensuring that everyone, regardless of their background, received the care they deserved. Yet, the challenges she faced were a stark reminder of the systemic issues that still plagued society. With her presentation ready, Maya stood before the mirror, straightening her attire and taking a final deep breath. She was a symbol of success and humility, navigating the complexities of her role with grace and determination. The path ahead was uncertain, but Maya was prepared to face it head-on, armed with her integrity and the support of those who truly understood her commitment. As the evening descended, Maya felt a renewed sense of purpose. the initial conflicts had only strengthened her resolve to fight for justice, transparency, and the betterment of Cedar Creek. She knew that the road ahead would be fraught with challenges, but with each step, she was determined to bridge the gaps, overcome the biases, and lead her community towards a brighter, more equitable future. The following morning, Maya Thompson woke with a sense of foreboding. The previous day's town hall meeting had left her drained, but she knew there was no time to dwell on the mounting pressures. The sun was just beginning to rise over Cedar Creek, casting a soft golden hue through her bedroom window. She dressed swiftly, choosing a professional yet approachable outfit that balanced her authority with her humble demeanor. As she walked into the clinic, the familiar scent of antiseptic and the soft hum of medical equipment greeted her. The staff were already bustling about, preparing for the day ahead. Maya took a deep breath, steeling herself for the challenges that lay ahead. Today was the day her legal team would present their findings to the board, and the tension in the air was palpable. In the conference room, the board members awaited her arrival. Their faces were a mix of skepticism and curiosity, reflecting the divided opinions within the community. Councilwoman Linda Harris sat at the head of the table, her expression unreadable. Mayor Thompson and several other influential figures occupied the remaining seats, their eyes fixed on Maya as she entered. "Good morning, everyone," Maya began, her voice steady and confident. "Thank you for taking the time to meet today. I understand there are serious concerns regarding our clinic's operations, and I'm here to address them transparently." She activated her presentation, the screen lighting up with data and charts that meticulously detailed the clinic's adherence to ethical standards and confidentiality protocols. As she navigated through the slides, Maya could feel the weight of every eye in the room. She addressed each allegation point by point, providing evidence and testimonials that reinforced the clinic's integrity. However, despite her thoroughness, Councilwoman Harris remained unconvinced. "Dr. Thompson, while your data is impressive, numbers don't always tell the whole story. There have been reports from patients who feel their privacy wasn't adequately protected. Can you provide more concrete examples of how these issues were handled?" Maya paused, choosing her words carefully. "Certainly, we have comprehensive records of every patient interaction, and any breach of confidentiality is taken very seriously. For instance, in the case of Ms. Ramirez, her concerns were promptly addressed by our senior staff, and additional measures were implemented to prevent future occurrences." Before Maya could elaborate further, the room fell silent. A sudden, sharp knock echoed through the conference room door, drawing everyone's attention. Officer Daniels entered, his presence commanding immediate respect and a hint of apprehension. He carried a sealed envelope in his hand, which he placed firmly on the table before addressing the board. "Good morning, Dr. Thompson, Councilwoman Harris, Mayor Thompson, and esteemed board members. I'm here to present additional documentation related to the ongoing investigation." Maya felt a chill run down her spine as Daniels unsealed the envelope, revealing a stack of official reports and photographs. The room buzzed with whispers as he began to speak. "These documents pertain to the specific incidents reported by Mr. Carter. Upon further investigation, we've identified several discrepancies that warrant a more in-depth review." Councilwoman Harris leaned forward, her eyes narrowing as she scanned the contents. "These photographs show unauthorized access to patient records, Dr. Thompson. Can you explain why these files were accessed without proper authorization?" Maya's heart raced, but she maintained her composure. "Those files belong to a system error that was promptly addressed. We have protocols in place to prevent unauthorized access, and any deviations are thoroughly investigated and corrected immediately." But Daniels shook his head. "Dr. Thompson, this isn't the first time such an error has occurred. These incidents suggest a pattern of negligence rather than isolated system faults." Maya felt a surge of frustration and helplessness. She had worked tirelessly to ensure the clinic's operations were above reproach, but now it seemed her efforts were being undermined by these allegations. She looked around the room, meeting the eyes of her allies and adversaries alike. The subtle prejudices and biases she had been navigating now manifested in the board's scrutinizing gaze. Councilwoman Harris interjected, her voice tinged with skepticism. "Dr. Thompson, given these new findings, what steps are you taking to ensure such breaches don't happen again? The community's trust is at stake here." Before Maya could respond, the door swung open once more, and Simon Carter strode into the room, his expression stern and uncompromising. "I see you've brought more evidence, Maya. It only reinforces the need for a thorough investigation." Maya stood tall, her internal struggle evident in her clenched fists. "Mr. Carter, these are isolated incidents that have been addressed promptly. The clinic remains committed to the highest standards of patient care and confidentiality." Simon approached the table, leaning over to scrutinize the documents. "Isolated multiple breaches over a short period suggest otherwise. This isn't about isolated incidents. It's about a systemic issue that needs immediate attention." The room was thick with tension, the air heavy with anticipation and unspoken judgments. Maya felt the familiar sting of being underestimated, her authority questioned not just because of the allegations, but also because of the implicit biases that colored their perceptions of her. As the meeting progressed, the conflict intensified. Board members voiced their concerns, and Maya responded with unwavering professionalism, though her patience was wearing thin. She could sense the shift in the room, the skepticism deepening, and the support waning. Despite her internal frustration, Maya remained determined to uphold her integrity and the clinic's reputation. After hours of deliberation, the board reached a consensus. "Dr. Thompson, given the severity of these allegations, we believe it is necessary to suspend your duties temporarily while the investigation proceeds. This is to ensure impartiality and maintain the clinic's credibility." Maya felt her world crumble around her. Suspended. "This is a preemptive strike based on unverified claims. I've dedicated my life to this community, and now you're treating me as the very problem I've worked to solve." Councilwoman Harris spoke up, her tone devoid of empathy. "Dr. Thompson, these are serious matters that cannot be ignored. We need to protect our patients and uphold the integrity of our healthcare services." Maya struggled to maintain her composure, her voice rising despite her best efforts to stay calm. "This is a miscarriage of justice. I have evidence to prove my innocence and the clinic's impeccable record. Suspending me without a thorough investigation is not only unfair, but also detrimental to the community's health." At that moment, an older board member, Mr. Lewis Mitchell, a retired judge known for his fairness and integrity, stood up, his presence commanding attention. "I believe in Dr. Thompson's dedication and the positive impact she has had on our community. However, we must allow the investigation to proceed without personal bias. Maya, you have our support in cooperating fully with the process." Maya felt a flicker of hope, appreciating Mr. Mitchell's unwavering support. "Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. I assure you, I will provide all necessary information to clear my name and restore the clinic's standing." But the atmosphere remained tense, the majority of the board still hesitant and divided. As the meeting adjourned, Maya knew that her fight was far from over. The unjust suspension was a direct affront to her hard-earned reputation and the humility she had always embodied, making her position even more precarious. That evening, Maya returned to her office, the fluorescent lights casting a sterile glow over the room. She sank into her chair, the reality of her suspension sinking in. The sense of betrayal was overwhelming, compounded by the subtle and overt prejudices she had encountered. Maya's mind raced with strategies to combat the injustice she was facing, her resolve hardening with each passing moment. She picked up her phone, dialing her legal team with a sense of urgency. "This is Maya. We need to escalate this immediately. I can't let these unfounded allegations ruin everything we've built." As she awaited a response, Maya's thoughts drifted to the quiet moments in Rosie's diner, the support of Mr. Mitchell, and the unwavering dedication she had always maintained. She refused to let this injustice define her, or her legacy. Just then, her phone buzzed with a message from Marcus, her chief of operations. "We've secured a meeting with an independent auditor. They're ready to start tomorrow morning. Stay strong." Maya felt a surge of determination. "Thank you," she whispered to herself, knowing that this was just the beginning of her fight to reclaim her position and uphold the truth. The next morning, Maya arrived at the clinic, her steps resolute despite the uncertainty that lay ahead. The sun was shining brightly, a stark contrast to the storm brewing inside her. As she entered the lobby, she was greeted by Mr. Lewis Mitchell, who offered a supportive smile. "Good morning, Maya. Ready to take on the day?" he asked, his voice steady and reassuring. Maya nodded, appreciating his presence. "Absolutely, Mr. Mitchell. Let's get to work." They made their way to the conference room, where the independent auditor, Ms. Elena Ramirez, awaited them. Elena was a seasoned professional with a reputation for her thoroughness and impartiality. Her sharp eyes and no-nonsense demeanor immediately set the tone for the meeting. "Dr. Thompson, Mr. Mitchell, thank you for coming," Elena began, her tone formal yet fair. "I understand the severity of the allegations and the impact they have on your clinic and the community." Maya took a deep breath, her resolve shining through. "Yes, Ms. Ramirez. We are committed to transparency and accountability. Please, feel free to ask any questions you have regarding our operations." As the audit commenced, Maya and Mr. Mitchell provided Elena with access to all necessary documents and records. They meticulously walked her through each protocol, ensuring that no stone was left unturned. Despite the gravity of the situation, Maya maintained her professionalism, her humility guiding her interactions, even as her internal strength propelled her forward. However, the day took an unexpected turn. As Elena delved deeper into the records, she stumbled upon a series of emails exchanged between Simon Carter and a few board members, including Councilwoman Harris. The emails hinted at a coordinated effort to undermine Maya's leadership, suggesting possible ulterior motives behind the allegations. Maya's heart pounded as Elena called her attention to the discovery. "Dr. Thompson, I found some correspondence that suggests these allegations might not be solely based on patient complaints. There are indications of possible bias and attempts to influence the investigation." Maya's eyes widened, the pieces of the puzzle falling into place. "What are you saying, Ms. Ramirez?" Elena glanced at Mr. Mitchell before responding. "It appears there might be an internal agenda at play here. These emails suggest that certain individuals may have a vested interest in discrediting your leadership." Maya felt a surge of vindication, her internal struggle culminating in this moment of clarity. "We need to bring this to light immediately. This isn't just about patient privacy, it's about ensuring fairness and combating bias within our own ranks." As Elena documented the findings, Maya knew that this was the breakthrough she had been waiting for. The revelation of systemic corruption within the board was the key to turning the tide in her favor. However, it also meant that the battle was far from over, and the stakes had never been higher. With the evidence in hand, Maya and Mr. Mitchell arranged a follow-up meeting with the board members. The atmosphere was charged with anticipation as they reconvened in the conference room, the documents and emails laid out before them. "Dr. Thompson, Mr. Mitchell, what do you have for us today?" Councilwoman Harris asked, her tone guarded. Maya took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. "Ms. Ramirez has uncovered evidence that suggests there has been a concerted effort to undermine my leadership and the integrity of our clinic. These emails between Mr. Carter and certain board members indicate a bias that goes beyond professional concerns." There was a collective gasp in the room as the board members exchanged uneasy glances. Simon Carter stood up abruptly, his face flushing with anger. "This is preposterous. These are personal opinions, not actionable evidence." Mr. Mitchell intervened, his voice calm but firm. "Mr. Carter, these emails demonstrate a pattern of behavior that cannot be ignored. It's not just about isolated incidents anymore. It's about the integrity of our entire institution." Councilwoman Harris shifted uncomfortably, her facade beginning to crack. "This is an exaggeration. Dr. Thompson has been an exemplary leader, and these findings are a misunderstanding." Maya felt a surge of frustration, but maintained her composure. "It's not a misunderstanding, Councilwoman. These emails clearly show a bias that has influenced the investigation and my subsequent suspension. We need to address this internally and ensure that justice is served." As the confrontation reached its peak, the room erupted into chaos. Board members began to argue amongst themselves, their frustrations and prejudices bubbling to the surface. Maya stood her ground, her internal strength unwavering despite the turmoil around her. Just then, a loud knock echoed through the room, silencing the heated exchange. Officer Daniels entered once more, his expression serious. "I need to speak with Dr. Thompson immediately. There's been an escalation in the investigation." Maya's heart sank, but she remained resolute. "I understand, officer. Let's discuss this in my office." As she followed Daniels out of the conference room, Maya knew that the situation had reached a critical juncture. The revelation of systemic corruption had heightened the conflict. but it also provided her with the evidence needed to fight back. The stakes were now higher than ever, with her reputation, the clinic's integrity, and the community's trust hanging in the balance. In her office, Maya sat across from Officer Daniels, who handed her a thick folder. "We've received new information that requires immediate attention. There's a warrant out for your arrest. Dr. Thompson charges include obstruction of justice and tampering with patient records." Maya stared at the documents, her mind reeling. "This is ridiculous. I've done nothing wrong. These charges are fabricated to keep me silenced." Daniel sighed, his expression conflicted. "The authorities have the right to pursue all leads. We need to act swiftly." Maya felt the full force of the injustice crashing down upon her. Her mind raced with thoughts of proving her innocence, exposing the corruption within the board, and reclaiming her position. The path ahead was fraught with danger and uncertainty, but her resolve was unshakable. She stood up, her voice steady despite the chaos within her. "I will not go quietly. I will fight these charges and reveal the truth behind these fabricated allegations." As she turned to leave, Officer Daniels called after her. "Be careful, Dr. Thompson. There are powerful people who will do anything to protect their interests." Maya paused, her eyes meeting his with unwavering determination. "I'm not afraid of powerful people. The truth will prevail." With that, she walked out of her office, the weight of the impending battle pressing down on her shoulders. The moment had come for her to take decisive action, to stand up against the systemic corruption and prejudice that threatened to destroy everything she had built. As she stepped into the hallway, Maya knew that the climax of her struggle was imminent. The community's future, her career, and her very identity were at stake. The journey that began with subtle prejudices and mounting tensions had now culminated in a fight for justice and integrity. The stakes had never been higher, and Maya was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, driven by her unwavering commitment to truth and fairness. The sun had barely risen over Cedar Creek, casting a soft glow through the blinds of Maya Thompson's office. The events of the previous days weighed heavily on her, but she refused to let despair take root. Determined to clear her name and expose the corruption within the board, Maya knew she had to act swiftly and strategically. As she sat at her desk, surrounded by stacks of documents and notes, Maya's phone buzzed again. This time, it was a call from Mr. Mitchell. She answered promptly, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "Maya, we need to talk," Mr. Mitchell said urgently. "It's about the warrant and the charges they filed against you." Maya's heart pounded. "What have they done?" "There's been a development. Officer Daniels just informed me that they're bringing in additional evidence tonight. It's not looking good, Maya. They've started detaining some of your key staff members, trying to pin more inconsistencies on the clinic." Maya clenched her fists, fighting to maintain her composure. "We need to protect our team. They've been nothing but supportive." "I agree. I've arranged for our lawyer to meet you at the clinic in 2 hours. We need to gather all possible evidence to counter these allegations and expose the internal corruption that's been undermining you." Before Maya could respond, the call ended, leaving her with a renewed sense of urgency. She glanced at the clock. 7:45 am. There was little time to prepare. Gathering her most critical documents, Maya called her assistant, Linda, to inform her of the immediate steps they needed to take. "Linda, please secure all patient records and any communication logs from the past 6 months. We might need them for our defense," Maya instructed, her voice firm. "On it, Maya," Linda replied, her tone resolute despite the gravity of the situation. As Linda hurried to comply, Maya took a moment to center herself. She walked over to the window, watching the town come to life. Cedar Creek was waking up, unaware of the storm brewing within her clinic. Determined not to let her personal battles overshadow her commitment to the community, Maya focused on the task at hand. 2 hours later, the clinic was buzzing with activity. Staff members moved with purpose. Unaware of the impending confrontation, Maya met with her lawyer, attorney Sarah Blake, in the conference room. Sarah was a seasoned attorney with a reputation for taking on high-profile cases, and her presence provided Maya with a sense of reassurance. "Sarah, thank you for meeting on such short notice," Maya began, her eyes meeting Sarah's with determination. "Of course, Maya. We need to act quickly. Officer Daniels mentioned that additional evidence is being gathered tonight. We need to anticipate their moves and prepare our counter-arguments," Sarah replied, her tone professional yet empathetic. Maya nodded, pulling out a folder filled with correspondence, emails, and internal memos that hinted at the board's malintent. Here are the emails between Simon Carter and some board members. They clearly show a bias against me and attempts to manipulate the investigation. Sarah examined the documents, her expression serious. This is substantial. We can use this to demonstrate that the allegations are not only unfounded, but also part of a larger effort to discredit you. We need to bring this to light, perhaps through the media, to ensure transparency. Maya's mind raced. Taking the fight public was a risky move, but it might be the only way to expose the corruption and protect her reputation. I agree, but we need to ensure that we have solid evidence before making any public statements. One misstep could be disastrous. Sarah nodded thoughtfully. We'll gather all the necessary evidence and consult with a forensic expert to verify the authenticity of these emails. In the meantime, you should remain calm and continue your duties as much as possible. Any sign of instability could be used against you. Maya took a deep breath, the weight of the situation pressing down on her. Thank you, Sarah. I'm counting on your expertise. As Sarah left to begin her preparations, Maya felt a flicker of hope amidst the chaos. With the support of her trusted allies, she was ready to confront the injustice head-on. However, she knew that the battle was far from over. That evening, as the clinic's doors closed and the town settled into the quiet of the night, Maya prepared herself for the confrontation. She reviewed the documents one last time, ensuring every piece of evidence was accounted for. Her phone buzzed again, this time a text from Mr. Mitchell. Meet me at the old warehouse on Elm Street at midnight. I have something important. Maya's pulse quickened. The old warehouse was a relic from Cedar Creek's past, a place where she had spent her childhood exploring and dreaming of a future beyond the confines of the small town. Now, it seemed to be the stage for a pivotal moment in her fight for justice. Understood, Maya replied, her fingers tapping nervously on the screen. Midnight arrived, and Maya drove through the deserted streets of Cedar Creek, the town bathed in the soft glow of streetlights. She parked her car near the old warehouse, the building standing silent and imposing against the dark sky. Taking a deep breath, she stepped out, the cool night air filling her lungs. As she approached the entrance, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was Mr. Mitchell, his face grim, but resolute. Thank you for coming, Maya, he greeted her quietly. What's going on, Mr. Mitchell? Maya asked, her eyes scanning the area for any signs of danger. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small USB drive. I found this in one of the board members' offices. It contains evidence that could prove the board's corruption and their orchestrated campaign against you. It's not much, but it's a start. Maya took the USB drive, her hands trembling slightly. Where did you find this? In a locked drawer in Councilwoman Harris's office. I had to be careful, but I couldn't let this fall into their hands. We need to analyze it. Dr. Maya Thompson, a wealthy and powerful black CEO and surgeon in the small town of Cedar Creek, leads a humble and dedicated life serving her community. However, her integrity is challenged when District Attorney Simon Carter accuses her of patient privacy violations, igniting suspicion and revealing deep-seated racial biases among influential board members and local authorities. Despite her professionalism and unwavering commitment, Maya faces subtle microaggressions and overt discrimination, including unjust suspensions and orchestrated attacks by figures like Officer Daniels. As tensions escalate, Maya must navigate a corrupt system determined to undermine her success and reputation. Dr. Maya Thompson adjusted the straps of her worn denim jacket as she pushed open the glass door of Rosie's diner. The morning sun spilled onto the asphalt, casting long shadows across the small town of Cedar Creek. Maya's daily ritual was to stop by Rosie's before heading to the community clinic, a place where her presence was less a symbol of her success and more an embodiment of her commitment to the town she loved. Rosie's was a cozy, unassuming spot with red vinyl booths and a checkered floor that had seen better days. The scent of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the aroma of sizzling bacon and homemade biscuits, creating an inviting atmosphere. Maya chose a seat at the counter, sliding onto a worn stool where the vinyl creaked softly beneath her weight. "Morning, Rosie," Maya greeted, nodding toward the proprietor who was bustling behind the counter. Rosie glanced up, her face breaking into a warm smile. Maya? The usual? Yes, please, Maya replied, her voice steady and genuine. She placed her keys on the side of the counter and pulled out her wallet, but instead of reaching for the money, she began rummaging through her bag. As Rosie prepared her coffee, Maya took a moment to observe the morning rush. The diner was filled with a mix of regulars and new faces, each person immersed in their own world. There was old Mr. Jenkins reading the newspaper, young parents trying to wrangle their energetic children, and the local factory workers grabbing a quick bite before their shifts. Maya's presence was almost invisible amidst the clatter of dishes and hum of conversation. Despite her high-profile career as the CEO of Thompson Healthcare, she preferred these small, intimate settings where she could connect with the community without the weight of her title looming over every interaction. Rosie placed the steaming cup of coffee in front of Maya, who offered a grateful smile. "Thank you." "You're welcome." "How's everything going at the clinic?" Rosie asked, leaning on the counter as she cleaned a plate. "Busy as always. We're seeing a lot of flu cases this year," Maya replied, taking a sip of her coffee. The warmth of the liquid spread through her, offering a momentary comfort before the day's challenges resumed. Across the diner, a group of teenagers laughed loudly, their boisterous energy filling the room. Maya couldn't help but feel a pang of nostalgia, remembering her own youth spent in places like this, dreaming of a future that seemed so distant at the time. A man in his early 40s approached the counter, his expression weary. He wore a wrinkled dress shirt and had dark circles under his eyes. "Can I get a coffee to go, Rosie?" "Sure thing. Mike Black as always?" Rosie asked, knowing him well. "Yeah, thanks," Mike replied, glancing at Maya before moving toward the door. As Mike left, a teenage waitress named Jenna approached Maya's table, carrying a stack of menus. Her hair was tied back in a messy ponytail, and she wore a name tag that read, "Jenna, 2 months." "Need anything else, Maya?" Jenna asked, her eyes darting between Maya and the entrance. "No, I'm good for now." "Thanks," Maya answered, her smile reassuring. Jenna nodded and returned to her duties, but Maya noticed the subtle tension in her movements. The diner had been experiencing staffing shortages lately, and the pressure was evident. Just as Maya was settling into her meal, the door swung open, and a man walked in, scanning the room with a stern look. He was tall, dressed in a tailored suit, and carried an air of authority that seemed to fill the space. His eyes briefly met Maya's, but he offered no acknowledgement, instead proceeding to take a seat at the booth near the window. Maya watched him for a moment, before focusing back on her breakfast. She appreciated the anonymity the diner offered, a stark contrast to her usual environment of boardrooms and hospital corridors. Here, she could breathe, if only for a short while. As she took another bite of her eggs and toast, Rosie approached again, a concerned look replacing her usual cheerful demeanor. "Everything okay, Maya? You seem a bit distracted today." Maya sighed softly, stirring her coffee thoughtfully. "Just thinking about the upcoming grant applications. We need to secure more funding for the mental health programs." Rosie nodded sympathetically. "I know it's a lot. You're doing great, though. The community really appreciates what you're doing here." Maya offered a grateful smile. "Thanks, Rosie. It means a lot." Their conversation was interrupted by the man in the suit, standing up abruptly, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. The diners turned to watch him, curiosity piqued by his commanding presence. Maya felt a familiar tightness in her chest as she observed the man. Something about his demeanor suggested he was not here for a casual meal. She tried to push aside the unease, focusing instead on her plate. As Rosie cleared the last of Maya's breakfast, the man approached the counter, pulling out a crisp white paper from his briefcase. "I'd like to speak with Dr. Thompson," he announced, his voice firm and unyielding. Maya stood up, adjusting her jacket. "I'm Dr. Thompson. How can I help you, Mr. Carter?" Simon Carter, the district attorney, met her gaze with narrowed eyes. He was known for his no-nonsense attitude and relentless pursuit of justice, traits that had both earned him respect and cultivated enemies over the years. "I was hoping we could address this privately," Maya began, maintaining her composure despite the storm brewing in her mind. "What specific concerns do you have?" Simon placed the document on the table, pushing it toward her. "These reports indicate potential violations of patient privacy and improper handling of sensitive cases." We've received multiple complaints." Maya leaned forward, her eyes meeting his with unwavering determination. "I assure you, our clinic operates with the highest standards of ethics and confidentiality. I'd like to go through these allegations point by point." Simon's expression remained stern, but there was a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. "That's precisely why I'm here, Dr. Thompson. We need transparency and accountability, especially when it involves public trust in healthcare institutions." Maya took a moment to review the documents, her mind working swiftly to recall the cases mentioned. "I'll need to investigate these claims thoroughly. Can you provide me with the names of the patients and the dates of these incidents?" Simon nodded, pulling out his phone to take notes. "I'll send you the detailed reports by the end of the day. I expect a prompt and comprehensive response from your end." As Simon stood to leave, Rosie approached the table once more, concern etched on her face. "Is everything all right, Maya?" Maya gave a tight smile, attempting to mask the anxiety bubbling within her. "Yes, Rosie. Just some work-related issues. I'll handle it." Simon paused at the door, looking back at Maya with a final measured gaze. "Dr. Thompson, if you need any assistance or further clarification, don't hesitate to reach out. We're here to ensure justice is served." With that, he exited the diner, leaving Maya to process the confrontation. The room seemed to close in around her, the cozy ambiance now tainted with a sense of impending conflict. Taking a deep breath, Maya sat back down, her mind racing with thoughts and strategies. The allegations were serious, and any misstep could jeopardize not only her reputation, but the well-being of the community she had dedicated her life to serving. Yet, she remained resolute, her humility a driving force in her approach to resolving the situation. As she pondered her next steps, Jenna returned to refill her coffee, sensing the shift in Maya's demeanor. "Here you go, Maya. Anything else I can get you?" "No, thank you, Jenna. I appreciate it," Maya replied, her voice calm but tinged with the weight of responsibility. Jenna gave her a sympathetic nod before leaving the table, allowing Maya a moment of solitude amidst the bustling diner. She reached for her phone, sending a quick message to her legal team, outlining the need for an immediate meeting to address the allegations. Outside, the morning sun continued to shine, indifferent to the turmoil within Rosie's diner. Maya gazed out the window for a moment, gathering her thoughts. Cedar Creek was a place where everyone knew each other, and trust was paramount. She couldn't afford to let this situation erode the community's faith in her leadership and the healthcare services they relied upon. As she awaited a response from her team, a subtle tension settled over Rosie's. The other patrons had